I recognize the honorable member for Nevis 11.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And I'm pleased to stand this afternoon to lend my support to this bill as well. But let me say from the onset, Madam Speaker, I am somewhat disappointed today in that this I consider to be a historic bill, a historic occasion, and one that I believe the entire country should be proud of. When I look into the gallery, I was hoping to see a large contingent of Rastas here supporting what we're doing here today. But that being said, I still want to commend my colleagues from Nevis. We have 3 persons here from Nevis, 3 Rastas, who have come to be a part of this occasion today. And I want to commend them for coming. I also want to just say my good friend Ras Aya, who is normally here, is not here today, disappointingly so. Ras and Kofa and many others who don't have to catch a boat, who probably would just have to catch a bus and come here, should have been here with their flags the same way and not necessarily participating, but as I say, showing their support for what we are doing here today. I believe the government and this House, this legislature, is genuine about what we are doing here today. This is no smoke screen. This is nothing that I would consider to be just another day. It is the day where history is being made when this bill, the Rastafari Rights Recognition Bill 2023, will be passed. There's no doubt that it will be passed today. And so I have said in the past that whenever there are legislation here being debated and to be passed here in the Parliament, and I can support, I will support, and this is one such bill. So I say that from the onset. I can say that and sit down, but I just want to say a few things, Madam Speaker, because when it's all said and done, I think we're dealing with something that is transformational in many ways. Recognizing a group of people who have been downtrodden, who have met a lot of ridicule over the years. And I will say that I have a few friends who are Rastas. And when they started along that journey, persons would have said unsavory things about such persons. But it speaks to the tenacity and the determination of Rastas in our community. For many of them who are still practicing this particular religion. I see Ras Ira here. He has been one who have been vocal in the community throughout St. Kitts and Nevis and beyond. His voice has been heard, and many other Rastas here in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis, and I want to commend them for their effort, of course. Indeed, I can say at this point, Madam Speaker, glory be to the Father and to the Maker of creation. As it was in the beginning, it now and ever shall be, world without end. Amen. That is something the Rastas will repeat when it's that time for sacrament, I suppose, right? I've never been around you, but I believe that is what you would say from time to time when that time comes. But I want to say that we debated a bill earlier, which was the Smoking in Designated Areas Bill 2023. And we had to do that, I suppose, to accommodate those who in our communities have been doing things that are inconsistent with what we want. I will say to you that many of the Rastas that I know, I never see them smoke cannabis anywhere in public. I'm going to be honest. I have a friend who is a Rasta, Ras Marcus, and I've known him for about 25, almost 30 years, and I've never, ever seen him smoke a joint in public. And that says a lot, Madam Speaker. It suggests to me there is a level of respect that this friend of mine and others are called to the general public. We spoke this morning about persons blowing smoke in our faces in a disrespectful way. But I want to say there is a level of respect that comes from this particular community that we must all be proud of and lift them up for that. And there was the point made earlier by member opposite that the respect that we have gotten from this community and also the level of commitment we have seen from them to their religion. We have to do what we are doing here today to ensure that we are giving them that type of support. Madam Speaker, Rastafarianism, a lot of us may not know the history behind it. Some of us may be guessing as we go along, but I believe somewhere along the line, somewhere in the 1930s thereabout, was when this religion started in Jamaica. I believe I'm right, I stand corrected. But in the 1930s, from then until now, it has been a struggle. But it has been a pathway that they've been on, and they've been pressing on up until now. And I'm certain that those who are in the gallery and those who are listening to me may have done their approach to the government, had consultation, have been pressing the government to bring this particular bit of legislation. But part of the religion that is practiced is that sacramental part of it that has to do with the smoking of cannabis, the herb, the weed. There are a couple of names that are given to it. It has a couple of names. Wisdom weed, is that one? I think so. Holy herb. Ganja, marijuana, cannabis. Whatever it is though. But there are some scriptures, there are a couple of verses of scriptures that connects the religion to the weed. I know a couple of them. Genesis 3:18 says, "Thou shalt eat the herb of the field."
A different herb.
Can't be a different herb. It cannot be a different herb. That is the herb that the Rastas have acknowledged and have embraced. That's the herb that no. The herb of the field, it's marijuana, cannabis, whatever you want to call it, the holy weed or wisdom weed. That is what they're connecting to. Exodus 10:12 speaks about eat every herb of the land, including cannabis.
Exodus 7.
Search your Bible. I can give you another one to Revelation 22:2. The herb is the healing of the nation. That's all more like it? Very close. That's all more like it. But there are scriptures in the Bible that speaks of the herb. And indeed, if the Bible speaks about it, who am I to condemn it? And I associate with what the religion and the Rastas are promoting, in that they have that connection to the herb or to cannabis as it is, yeah? So, Madam Speaker, I believe though Rastas, in very few words, would condemn the overuse or the misuse of marijuana just to get high. There are people out there who are using it just to get high and to show themselves, as far as I'm concerned. And I believe they would condemn that. Any day they would condemn it, and I would join with them in condemning it. And it also tells me that if we were to condemn it and continue to condemn it, what we tried to do this morning, or what we did this morning, may not have been possible, or may not have been necessary, I should say, because, of course, if marijuana is used as that sacrament, we wouldn't have to be passing legislation to ensure that we're putting persons in different areas to smoke, away from those of us who are not engaged. But that being said, it's what we have to do as a parliament and a legislature. But Madam Speaker, I'm not going to be long this afternoon with this one, because of course it was mentioned that we have other legislation to deal with this afternoon. But I just wanted to make sure I lend my voice and to ensure that as a legislator, I am giving the support to a bill that I feel is important. What is also important, Madam Speaker, is the legislation itself, and I'm going to just touch on Section 5 of the legislation that gives a number of concessions and waivers to the Rastafari group. These are important If we're recognizing this group, it therefore means that what we do and the legislation itself must be consistent with what we're trying to accomplish. It speaks of waivers on license, it speaks of waivers on taxes, it speaks of waivers on property tax, for example, and also the purchase of crown land. These are important concessions that are being offered to this particular group. It's almost like some of the concessions that are given to farmers, for example, but these are more in line with religious groups that currently benefit from certain concessions here in the Federation, and these are consistent with that, which I must applaud the government for doing so. But not only that, it also eliminates anyone from just getting up tomorrow and be a fake Rasta group, a Rastafari group, because there are penalties that are in this legislation. Section 9 of the legislation deals with false representation or other offenses. And these are serious offenses or serious penalties for any breach that might occur. If I were to read into the record just quickly, Madam Speaker, a person who fraudulently misrepresents a group as a Rastafari group for the purpose of an application pursuant to this act, A, if he or she has not benefited from the fraud, shall be liable on summary conviction to a fine not exceeding $100,000, that's easy, and to imprisonment for 2 years. That is if they haven't benefited from a fraud that was perpetrated. B, if he or she has benefited from the fraud and has received cabinet concession to acquire property, shall be liable on indictment to a fine not exceeding $250,000 and to imprisonment for 5 years. And the court may also declare any property acquired through that fraud to be forfeited to the state, or to order that an amount equivalent to the value of the concession granted be paid to the state. So these are serious penalties, Madam Speaker. It says with this particular level of penalties that anyone who ever thinks about impersonating or fraudulently misrepresenting that particular or this particular religion, the Rastafari group, for the sake of benefiting in any way, because of course they'll be able to carry out their sacramental practices in their own space. Someone might see that they can start something somewhere else just to benefit, or might use some fraudulent means to get registered. If that is the case, if it happens to be the case, I must say, then there are some serious penalties. So anyone thinking of that must cease and desist or refrain from doing so. So that is to cover and make sure that we are looking after the Rastafari group as this legislation is intended to do. Madam Speaker, I want to say how proud I am to stand here on the opposition side, lending support to a bill that was brought by the government side. And I've said before, and I repeat again, that anything that is for the benefit of any group, anyone, beneficial to the entire federation, I am willing to support to ensure that we are moving in the right direction. I believe the Rastafari group have come a long way in the right direction. Certain things will come a long way in the wrong direction. These have been a group that have been persevering and pressing on. So they've come a long way in the right direction, and I want to commend them. And my support is there in its fullest capacity today in supporting this bill before this honorable House. And as such, I wish this bill safe passage when it receives its third reading. I thank you, Madam Speaker.